made. But in other boxing news, I saw this week, or last week, they're talking, DAZN is talking to, apparently Canelo turned down the PBC offer to fight Charlo, and he's going to do a 2-fight deal with DAZN. He's going to fight Bivol at light heavyweight, and part of the 2-fight deal is that he's going to fight Bivol and then move on to Triple G to wrap up their trilogy. Lots to discuss there, but interesting that they passed up on the PBC fight. I'm sure that the Charlos weren't happy to see that payday slip away, because there's not going to be another fight that pays like even half of what he could have made to fight Canelo. What do you think on Canelo Bivol?
All right, I give him credit. Canelo, I give him credit. I give him credit. Because I've said when he was picking guys that looked like they were more than they really were, I pointed out, when he was picking, whether it was the Billy Joe Saunders, whether it was Plant, and I like Plant, a lot. And he's made himself out of not being an extraordinary talent in one area, but just being real good in a lot of areas and solid. He won a world title. He had a nice little career there. He still has in front of him. Who knows what he's going to do? But he was picking guys, Canelo, that was smart, because he was much better than him. He was going to win. There was no chance. And I said it. I'm not being a Monday morning quarterback. I said it, but you could back me up on that one, Ken. I know you always back me up when you think I'm right. And I said when we were forecasting those fights that he's gonna knock both guys out. It's not what people think it's gonna be. And then you got some of these people.
You described exactly what was gonna happen.
And you got the fans out there. Oh no, it's gonna be that. Okay, fine. I could be wrong, but in those kind of cases, I didn't feel I'd be wrong, because I know something about my business in that way. Doesn't mean that I still don't get them wrong. I do. But I felt that those were easy ones for me because of the reasons I pointed out. There was nothing those guys could do better than Canelo to have a chance to win. And at the end of the day, it would show out. It would show out in that way. And it did. But now, and he was smart, Canelo. He's getting paid all this money. He's picking guys with belts, guys with undefeated records. So it looks good. He's getting paid. It justifies paying him the money. It justifies people coming to watch it. You draw them in, to the extent that whatever numbers they did. So it was smart. But this one is nothing about that stuff. It's nothing about those things. Thinking about, hey, we got to get the guy with the right record. We got to get the guy that looks like it's going to be competitive, but we have a huge edge, and then we can sell. No, it's not about that. There's a guy that could beat him. There's a guy who's naturally bigger, light heavyweight. I know Canelo's bigger now. He's a whole different human being now. I get it. I don't, I get it. I don't know if that beef in Mexico has anything to you and me. Got to go eat down there one day, Ken. We gotta go down there, have some lunch, maybe stay for a week. Have a few meals and see how we look when we come back. You know what I mean?
We come back looking like Kel Brook.
Maybe.
When I was a casual, I thought as a casual, I spoke like a casual, and I looked at boxing like a casual. But when I became a hardcore, I put away all those casual things. This is Michael Rogers, and welcome to Bodywork Boxing.
Welcome back. It's Michael Rogers. Welcome to Bodywork Boxing, where we don't take things for face value. We actually do that body work. And I know that clip, it had a lot to digest. And that's going to be my goal today, to digest much of what we just heard. Now, I always salute Teddy Atlas and Ken. You know, they have a great show. And what I want to point out is that these two gentlemen are free gentlemen. You know, they don't have to push narratives. They're financially set. They don't have anybody in their pockets. They're not any boxers that they have to cap or cape for and, you know, all that stuff. So when you hear from them, you get the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know what I'm talking about? So the first thing I want to point out before I get around to telling you whether or not I agree with Teddy, right? What's going on right now with Charlo? In that clip, you actually heard them say that Ken was like, you know, it's a lot of disgust because I'm sure that the Charlos were actually, you know, disturbed that they actually didn't get that payday because it was going to be a big payday and they're probably not going to be able to get a fight that's going to garner half as much as what Canelo would actually bring to the table if a fight between Jermall Charlo would actually get if they fought, right? And that's very interesting because it's no longer a narrative. You know, like I say, I give them guys a lot of credit, and if I'm hearing them guys correctly, right, what the public consensus is that Charlo is wanting to pay a payday. You know, in that clip, ever since Canelo went on with that payday, you want payday, like that, fans and everybody else have taken that and they just jumped on that train, and that train is 300 miles an hour down the tracks. And it's kind of sad because if you think about it, Charlo was a 2-division champion, right? He could have fought Canelo in 2 different weight classes, right? But Canelo got the franchise and moved out of there, right? Canelo and the Charlos are actually the same age, born in the same year. So I could see if it was one of them young guys who was just standing by and waiting, and they, you know, they just wanted to get their payday. You know, it's big. It's a significant age difference. This is totally different than David Benavidez. David Benavidez is not a 2-division weight champion. He's actually bigger than 168. He should be actually fighting at 175. And he's significantly younger than them, Canelo and the Charlos, because they're the same age. However, Charlo is being perceived as wanting a payday. And I don't agree with that. I think that he actually has earned a payday when you actually think about it. And I think that this is more legacy, but what I'm getting at is the perception. See, the perception of a Charlo is that he just wants a payday, when this is actually his legacy fight. Everybody in boxing needs a nemesis. You know, everybody needs a nemesis. It's just like, you know, the whole Bud and Earl. You know, that's a nemesis that actually came about. People say that Tank and Loma, that's a nemesis. It was T.O. and Devin, and T.O. messed around with the belts and, you know, had a varied game plan, a flawed game plan, and Cambosos is in the picture, but there's always built-in rivals. The Shakur Valdez, that's a built-in rival. You know, you had the Fury Wilder. You know, it's everybody has a nemesis, and I believe that Charlo was looking at Canelo like that's his legacy fight, right? But the reason that Ken actually said, as far as, you know, that was the topic that they brought up as far as the money, and I don't think that Charlo wants this fight solely for the money. This would be a legacy-defining fight, much like Caleb Plant when he got his opportunity. It was a legacy-defining fight. What he did, how his opportunity slivered out of his hands, you know, with the shenanigans that he pulled inside the ring, that's on him. And that's something he's going to have to rebuild his legacy from. But I don't think that this is solely based on Charlo wanting the payday. We got to think about that. Why is it always the perception that Charlo just wants a payday after all this time? And for that reason, for the fact that people are going around saying that, I've been said that Charlo needs to go ahead and move on. You know, I think that it's not doing anything for him to, you know, go on this roller coaster ride, thinking that he got a fight, that it's in the bag, that it's not in the bag, on one foot in. And Canelo is playing hokey pokey with him. I always say, in closing on the Charlo thing, if Charlo was such low hanging fruit, right? Why not go pick that cherry? If he's past it, because you got to look at it. Charlo gave us a highlight reel with J-Rock. He had a tough fight with Korobov. He put on a master display against Derevchenko. Some people say it was a mediocre performance with Juan Montiel because he didn't get him out of there. What he won 10 out of the 12 rounds. Right? He made Dennis Hogan do a backflip. Charlo has put in his work. And he actually deserved that shot. And it's not about money. This is a legacy-defining fight. Canelo just holds the key to that whole mansion or whatever. And he's at the point where he can pick and choose. You know, I'm no longer fighting with that. I'm no longer contending with that. You know, I just think that Charlo's reputation and his livelihood is taking a hit if he continues to pursue Canelo Alvarez. I did a video, I think it was one of the first, it was like the second video of the year when I said that Charlo need to go ahead and fight Caleb Plant, and then he need to go ahead and fight David Benavidez. It'll be in-house fights, nothing to constrict. It'll be both of those fights will be legacy-defining fights, and depending on how he fares in those fights, will actually take his legacy even higher, and it'll also garner the praise if Canelo decides to double back and go ahead and take that on. Once Canelo moves up to 175, it ain't no telling if he's gonna come back down to 168. Okay, so I'm gonna put that Charlo to rest. He also went on to talk about how Bivol was the right option. And what he was saying about some of the opponents that Canelo chose to pick, even though it was on this path to undisputed, were some of the same very things I was saying about Canelo. And I still say to this day, as far as the maneuvering and the picking, those were fights that he knew he was going to beat. Those were low-hanging fruit, you know, type fights. This was nothing like what Josh Taylor did. It's nothing like what Errol Spence is currently doing. If Shakur actually go ahead and fight Valdez, he'd be done have Herring and Valdez, who'd be done completed half of an undisputed. But the route going to undisputed, that was not one of the most challenging paths to take. It wasn't. It just wasn't. That's the reality of the matter. But like Teddy said, he's actually saying that Bivol is a guy that actually has a real shot. Like he said, he wasn't right. I mean, he wasn't wrong before in his picks on all those fights. You know, and none of us are perfect when it comes to picking these fights. But he actually co-signed this Canelo. They went on to talk about how Triple G and how, you know, that's, you know, maybe they figured out that Triple G is, you know, past it. Maybe it's this, you know, even though he in this video, if you go back and watch it, the fight with Teddy Atlas and Ken Rideout, go back and watch the video. They talked about it in depth. I'm not going to, you know, steal their thunder or anything, but I always use Teddy's takes because they're pure, and I often agree with them. I think it's time for Charlo to move on. I'm going to put closure to dumping on Canelo for not giving Charlo his opportunity, even though I know that young brother Charlo actually want his shot. It's just time to just move on and just do something else. You know what I'm saying? Pave a different way. Create your legacy elsewhere. Who knows in boxing, because just like we thought we was going to get Jermall and Castano too, right after I do a video, Castano pulls out. You know, people say, you know, well, why Charlo just won't fight Andre and this and that. And Andre has a history of pulling out. You know, the great ones, people find ways to pull out. Tyson Fury pulled out on Wilder. You know, the whole thing that knocked off T.O.'s rhythm, you know, going into the momentum that he had after beating Lomachenko into the Cambosos was all the back and forth and the move dates and all that. And that affect fighters, especially when they're in camp, they're doing that thing, they got their sights set, they got a date, and then boom. You know, it's almost like not being able to go to the amusement park when you're younger because it rained on the day when you decide to have a picnic at the amusement park. So, not to rain on your parade, Maul, go get with Caleb Plant. You know, go get with Caleb Plant. Define your legacy by fighting Caleb Plant. and then going right after David Benavidez. And I'm sure that if you went after somebody like Jaime Munguia, they'll be saying, oh, why is he picking on him? But legacy. And I think that's what them gentlemen were talking about. I think that if Canelo is to move up and fight Bivol, and he continues his reign, and he go ahead and fight Beterbiev, and, you know, he wipes out 175, that'll be legacy defining. That'll be more the caliber of type of fights that I would like to see Canelo Alvarez in. That's really all I had on the subject matter. You know, it's been a while since I did Teddy's Takes. It's just I've been watching, you know, and it was nothing really that really catered to what I like, even though they always have good shows. It was nothing that catered to what I tend to do here at Bodywork, but came up on something, thought I'd share. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for the growth. Thanks for, you know, liking and sharing the videos. Thanks for all my new subscribers. All subscribers matter. Here where we feed the clones, Bodywork.
All right, I believe you, but my Tommy gun don't. Get down on your knees and tell me you love me.
My word, and I do what I do. He knows what I'm about to tell him right now. It's Mr. Keep running your mouth. That's what I do.
I just feel like I'm the champ, and at the end of the day, I'm just a fighting motherfucker. It doesn't matter. Inside, outside, I can just fight. So I just feel like if it gets down to the wire, and we gotta lock it up, I'm out on top.
Hey, look, as you can see how I'm looking, I stay solid. I'm always solid. I stay fuck solid up, man. You know what I'm saying? To the fans and all that.
You did a job outside the ring. I'm a fighter. Like I said before, ain't no safety when you got so.